I'm Cara, a 24-year-old small business owner. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I've been told. But most definitely, I'm the loner type. I like my personal space and privacy above all else. Though I have a few friendships I've maintained while growing up. Did I mention I'm also an only child? When my parents divorced when I was young, my mother remarried right away and left the country with her new husband. I heard she has other children now. I wouldn't know for sure, since she cut all ties with me and my dad years ago. It's just chatter I overhear from relatives when they're talking. So, for the longest time, it was just me and my dad. He wasn't the affectionate, hands-on type, but he was pretty reliable. I never wanted for anything and he didn't really bother me unless there was an absolute need. And since I never gave him a cause, I was pretty much left to my own devices. My father and I never discussed my plans for college. It was always assumed I would go to the local college and commute from home. More because my grades didn't allow for scholarships and my father's income was meager, at best. There was really not a lot of room for saving for such a thing. In my family, college was considered a luxury. But for me, it was a must. Yet during high school a few of my friends and I hatched a long-term plan to escape from our impoverished predicament. We started a small online company. It started off small with the sales of makeup, hair products, and a few skin products. It's since expanded to now include a few accessory items and hopefully soon, we can expand to clothes. But that's a little ways in the future. It was this hobby/part-time job that allowed me to garner some of the things I needed or wanted without bothering my father for extra money. Especially when I knew there was not much to spare after taking care of our monthly expenses. And though he and I lived in what most would deem a rundown apartment, it was home. I kept it neat and clean so my father never had to worry about anything after a hard day's work. Even if he never said it, I knew he appreciated my efforts. So imagine my surprise when I found out he had remarried. I'll admit, I wasn't too pleased. More for my own selfish reasons, but I didn't protest too much. After all, soon I would be going off to college and starting my own life. So it wasn't fair to deny his own happiness when I was only going to be leaving soon anyway. But let me just say, and it's not an exaggeration, his new wife, Doris, was a literal wicked witch, and her daughter, Sammy, was the devil's spawn. Naturally, it didn't start out of the gate this way. It started on a small scale. It was a slow build. The pleasant first greeting. The motherly concern if I had eaten. Small things like this that made my father lay his guard down and think he was leaving me in the kind, capable hands of a mother figure. It was anything but. After the first week, it began. Because it was just me and my father for so long, we had no need for more than 2 bedrooms. Truthfully, my father gave me the actual bedroom and he slept in a cramped makeshift room that doubled as a small bedroom. He said, because I was a girl and needed privacy and a student, I needed the space more than he did. So he gave it to me and slept in the closet-like room. I was informed by my father that I would be sharing my room from now on with my new sister. It became a huge fight. She's not my sister. She's your wife's daughter, I said to him. Why should I have to share my room? She'll just start touching my things and I don't like that. Cara, whether you like it or not, she's now your sister. Why don't you give it a try? For me. My father said this in a sad tone. I felt sorry for him. It had been so long since he had been with someone he considered a love interest and maybe I was being a little bit selfish. Why couldn't I make this small sacrifice for him? Reluctantly I gave in and allowed Sammy to move into my already too small room with me, against my better judgment. But as the old saying goes, if you give someone an inch they'll take a mile. My business partners stayed behind at school discussing our new business plans for our online store, so by the time I got home from school, it was relatively late and already getting dark. You're in trouble now, Sammy said when I walked in the door. What do you mean I'm in trouble? I didn't do anything. I said this as I walked past her and towards my room. As I got closer, I could see Doris scooping up armfuls of my clothes from my bureau and tossing it into a packing box. Then she went to my small makeup table and began raking my toiletries into another small plastic bin. "What are you doing?" I ran into my room to stop her. My room was a disaster. All of my clothes were in boxes and my personal items had been rummaged through and put in bins. "Don't touch my things. Who do you think you're talking to like that? You've been running wild far too long, it seems." Doris spun around to continue whatever she was doing. "Are you kicking me out? My father won't let you do that to me." I began yelling at her and blocking her from touching any more of my items. "Your father said that I am the woman of this house and you have to listen to me. And this is my rule. If you want to be a feral animal, then you'll have to live like one." Doris shoved me aside and continued packing my items. "Ma, do I get to keep the room?" Sammy called out from the other room. I looked over at her and she had a sly smirk on her face. I wanted to slap it off. "Yeah, baby. This is your room now. If Cara wants to live wild, she can live in the streets with the other animals. Where am I supposed to go? Does my father know you're trying to kick me out of our house? I'm the woman of this house now. I don't know and I don't care where you go. Go to your mother's house." "Oh, yeah, I forgot. Your mother abandoned you and started another family, huh?" This time she let out a diabolical laugh that was, quite frankly, bone-chilling. Thankfully my father came home and defused the situation. But instead of kicking out that witch and her demon, he just told me I have to listen to my new mother and to be more obedient next time. I needed to follow the house rules because she was the woman of the house now. I can leave it to her and just be a student from now on. Just to study hard, he would say. It was this incident when I knew I was on borrowed time in this house. Although our online store was making some pretty good profits, it was still very conservative. So far, it was barely enough to cover my college tuition and a few other expenses. At this rate, I may have to get a part-time job to supplement my income. Still, it was better than nothing. I was kicked out of my own bedroom and my boxes of clothes was put on the porch, exposed to the elements. Some of my items were beginning to smell like mildew. But there was nowhere else for me to put them. So I had to make a habit of finding out what I was going to wear the next day, hand wash it and let it hang out to dry to rinse that moldy smell from the fabric. Phew, what's that stink? Can you close the lid on those clothes? I don't want that smell coming through my bedroom window, Sammy said as she peeked out the window watching me rummage through my boxes. Then close your window. I don't care, I said, frustrated. But the very next day I came home to all of my clothes ruined by bleach being poured into the boxes. Automatically I screamed at the sight. What the hell? What happened? Who did this? Sammy came outside when she heard me yelling. You could tell she just wanted to see the expression on my face. She took glee in seeing me suffer. She hated me and the feeling was mutual. What's with all the noise? Sammy tried to feign innocence. She looked over at the box of clothes that was ruined by the bleach. Oh, I told my mom that your clothes reeked of mildew and was keeping me up at night. I'm afraid I may get mold growing on my lungs. So, she decided to fix the problem for me. She took in a deep breath and laughed. So much better now. Then she let out the same diabolical cackle her mother often made. To be honest, it was a little frightening to hear. It made me wonder why my father didn't know they were so evil. But the more I thought on it, I remember them being so sugary sweet when he was around. Acting if they were innocent and truly considerate for our well-being. Either way, it was the fuel I needed to propel me to accelerate my independence and get away from them all. And though I didn't really want to leave my father alone with these two, I had no choice but to start plotting my own survival. After all, I was the only target for their bullying and the only unwilling participant in this happy family they were trying to construct. As soon as my friend Gemma opened her door, I plopped on her couch. I can't take it anymore. I have to get out of there. They're driving me insane. Why don't you crash here for a few days? At least get your mental health back on track, Gemma suggested. But I had to refuse. Doris is ruling with an iron rod right now. If I try to stay out, even for one night, it'll only be fuel for her to continue her torture. I just have to stick to my plan. I can't believe your father let them kick you out of your room then ruin all of your clothes like that. I guess love is truly blind, Gemma sighed. He doesn't know about the clothes. I didn't have the heart to tell him about that. I just don't want to start any trouble for him. Are you joking? Why not? If you keep it to yourself, he has no idea you're being bullied right under his nose. How is he supposed to protect you if he doesn't know? Her question was legitimate, but I felt I didn't want to lay this burden on him. I just felt so guilty, like I was constantly whining and complaining, only to be made to seem like a petulant child. So, some of the things that I had been going through I kept to myself. Well, on a good note. The clothing retail launch was a success. The expansion is complete. I think you were right to springboard off of the last launch. You're a smart boss. Gemma gave me a high five. Thanks to you and Lacey, it's all coming together. I project that, within the year, our profit will increase and we can possibly open an additional online store. I'm thinking we can gear it towards a more mature clientele this time, I suggested. I'm just following the leader on this. I'm just glad you're allowing me to tag along. I know Lacey feel the same way. Well, I guess you better go and face your stepmonster. Stay strong. If we stay on course, you'll be able to afford to move soon. When I walked through the front door, I was greeted with my stepmonster and daughter wearing my dresses, the few items that didn't get destroyed by the bleach incident and a few pieces of my jewelry. You could tell they had not been expecting me to return home so soon. My mouth fell open, ready to let loose on them, then it slammed shut. I saw my father. He was subtly shaking his head, indicating for me not to do anything embarrassing. That's when my eyes saw the other man in the room with them. He was formally dressed, though it wasn't in the latest style or even an attractive style if I'm being completely honest. "Ah, this is our other daughter," Doris was saying to the man in the room. "Cara, where's your manners? Come in and greet our guest, he's going to be your brother-in-law." Brother-in-law? It was incredulous. Sammy's getting married. The notion pleased me. If she was getting married then that meant she would be leaving this apartment soon. Maybe I can get my room back. The thought pleased me and brought a broad smile to my lips. "Hi, I'm Cara." "I'm Dex," he said. "Since you're here, you may as well take a seat over there." Doris looked put off by my presence. You could tell she was struggling to maintain her phony cordial demeanor while I was present. But she didn't want her precious son-in-law to see her mask slip. So she did manage to retain the fake smile on her face. Sammy chimed in. "This is my fiancé. His family gave us permission to marry and all we need is the blessing of my dear mother and father." "Is that so? Why the rush?" "I mean, you're still in high school," I said. "I graduate this year. I'm already an adult. We're the same age so don't look down on me," she began to argue. Well, they were in such a rush to get married and start their family right away. So we decided, why hold it up? They should get married right away. Doris let the words come out, but I could tell she wished she held her tongue. "Oh, so she's pregnant," I said bluntly. Doris and Sammy's faces turned beet red. My father looked indifferent, but Dex genuinely looked embarrassed. He held his head down and refused to look up. I felt sorry for him. By this one careless mistake, he was going to be shackled to these beasts for the rest of his life. "Mind your tongue. If you can't be in polite company you can go to your room," Doris spat out. "Well, I can't do that since you're in my room right now," I indicated that I slept on the couch. "Well, just sit there and be quiet then. We don't need your input in our family matters," Sammy was perturbed. "Aren't I family?" I continued to egg them on. Actually, it was kind of fun. I knew there may be repercussions later, but for now I was quite enjoying myself watching them squirm. That's enough, my father finally spoke up. Let's get on with it. During the course of the conversation, it was determined that, since no one had money for a wedding, Sammy and Dex would just go to the courthouse, finalize the license and voila, married. But I didn't care about all of that. I just wanted to know when she was leaving. Too impatient, I finally asked. Where are you two moving? Sammy gave me a bewildered look, more like I asked a stupid question. Moving? We're not moving. We're living right here. You don't expect a newly married couple to be able to venture on their own straight out of high school. Besides, Dex doesn't even have a job yet. No, what? Are you telling me that he's going to live here with us? But there's hardly enough room for all of us as it is. Correction, there isn't enough room here for all of us. So why should we add another person? Enough. Who are you to decide who lives where? You're on a slippery slope as it is. You should be more concerned about yourself. Don't concern yourself with my daughter and her husband's business. Worry about yourself. If you don't like the living arrangements, you can get out and solve the problem for all of us. I looked to my father. This was where he was supposed to put this evil witch in her place and tell her this was my house and she was the usurper. But he avoided eye contact with me and his lips pressed tightly together, preventing any word from coming out. This is when I knew he was not going to defend me. No matter what was being said or done. His silence was his choice. She was his choice. Several more months passed. My father spent more and more time out only to come home drunk. On occasions, he would be accompanied by Dex and they would both come stumbling into the house singing or talking loudly. Doris looked irritated that the able-bodied man she thought her daughter brought home, someone who could go out and work and bring money into her coffers, was useless. And Sammy was getting bigger and more irritated by the day. Making impossible demands and thinking the entire house was at her beck and call simply because she got herself knocked up while in high school. For the briefest of moments, the entire house forgot about my existence and the bullying stopped. But like I said, that was brief. What's this? Doris slammed my bankbook on the table as soon as I walked in the front door. You sit here and let us suffer and you have all this money squirreled away. We need this money. We have a baby coming and he's going to need a crib and clothes and... I cut her off. This is the money I'm using for college. I will not be using this money for anything else. Who do you think is paying my tuition? How selfish could you be? Whether you accept it or not, we're a family. Your money is our money. If there's a need, you have to use it. Doris complained. Why should you go to college? You need to get a job and work to help support this family. That is your duty. As soon as Sammy heard the word, money, she waddled into the room. How much is it? She tried to grab the bankbook on the table, but I snatched it up before she could get it. It's none of your business. It's not your money and I'm not using it for anything but for what I need. You have a husband. He should be taking responsibility for your and the baby's needs. We'll see about that. If you think you're going to stay in this house and mooch off of us, you can grab your stuff and leave now. We have no use for a selfish cow like you. Doris railed endlessly. Once in a while, you'd hear Sammy chime in with her 2 cents. This is why I will never let you be my sister. You're just a spoiled, selfish witch. You think you're better than us, huh? This statement nearly made me laugh out loud. Better? How? Have you looked around? My clothes are on the front patio in boxes and my bed is this old, lumpy couch. Yeah, but at least you grew up knowing your father. Sammy still tried to justify her irrational thinking. I never knew my father. I pointed to Doris. Well, you have a mother. I don't. Can I use the same logic? Sammy's face turned red. Shut up. You're just trying to be a smartass now. No one wants to hear what you have to say. You're just making excuses on why you're hoarding money when we're in dire need here. Doris cut in, clearly losing her patience of the situation. Because I'm like your mother figure, I'll be generous. Think carefully on what you will choose. You either give me the bank book to do what I deem necessary for this family, you start paying for your rent and expenses for leeching off my husband, or you can pack the rest of your rags you can salvage on the patio and leave. Your choice. I yelled back. You are nothing of a mother figure to me. Since the beginning I was just someone who you wanted to bully and beat into submission. You are not my family. Your problems are not my problems. Get out. Get out now, you horrible child. You better leave that bank book. Sammy yelled to my back as I was walking out of the front door. Mom, make her leave it. Take it. We need that money. Doris yelled too. You selfish brat. We'll see where you run to when your money runs out. Leave and don't come back. And your father is dead to you now. Don't ever come back. 1 year later I was enjoying one successful launch after another. Before long, we managed to have 3 online stores and was considering other options for expansion. A high school idea born out of the necessities of life quickly became a flourishing business. After leaving that toxic house, I was finally able to focus solely on my studies and my business. Within the year that I had been gone, my profit went from a few thousand to 6 figures and is now in the comfortable $1.2 million range. Soon after Sammy gave birth to her baby, my father informed them they had 1 month to leave. He was going back to the countryside to be with his family and he was not taking them with him. Doris tried to use a guilt trip on him, but I don't think he ever forgave her for kicking me out of my own house. My father cried to me and apologized profusely for the bullying and torturous behavior he allowed me to endure. But I explained to him that it wasn't his fault. There were a lot of things I kept from him because I wanted him to be happy, even if it meant I had to be miserable for a short time. In the end, I found out he wasn't truly happy, just lonely. He thought Doris would be a companion for him in his old age, and since Sammy and I were close in age we would be good company for each other. He didn't know at the time that Doris was skilled in putting on a sweet face and tricking people into believing she was a good person, but he quickly learned it was all fake. But by then, it was already too late. I heard through the grapevine that Dex asked for a divorce from Sammy and went back to his family who adamantly objected to their marriage in the first place, leaving Doris and Sammy to fend for themselves. Doris and Sammy had to get jobs to take care of their own needs and the needs of the baby. Because money was scarce, they rotated morning and evening shifts to be on hand to babysit to cut down on expenses for daycare. I guess you can say, their well has run dry, and no one was falling for their old tricks anymore. As for me, I bought my first apartment and I'm in my last year of college and I'm lucky enough to work from home running a successful business. Now that I have extra time on my hands, I may even go on a few dates. Who knows what my future holds?
Thanks for listening to my story. Come back for more stories and help our channel grow. Bye.